to have you here with us at Morning Listeners, Thara. So, Dr. Thara, you are a professor at California State University, Fullerton. So, for how long have you been working there?
Yes, I've been a professor at Cal State Fullerton for 5 years. I teach relational communication and sexual communication.
It sounds like a great choice of option.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's always full. Registration is always filled up. The classes always fill up really fast.
Other than being a passionate teacher, what other professions do you handle?
I love being a professor. Other professions I have are I'm a coach. So I'm a sex and relationship coach at lovebites.co. And I have a podcast. So I'm a podcast host. And the podcast is called Love Bites by Dr. Thara.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's fun. I love this profession. I love being able to help people navigate their relationship and sex life because I do think it's so important. Many of the respectable therapists and psychologists I know always talk about how important the quality of your relationships are for your life satisfaction. So really, how happy you are with your life depends a lot on the quality of your relationship.
I completely agree with you. It really matters on how healthy your relationships are.
Totally, because if you're in a bad relationship, then you don't have the bandwidth to deal with anything else. I can't imagine trying to run a successful business while having a really bad relationship, right?
Right. From where did your interest for teaching begin?
Yeah, so it began in my early 20s when I started graduate school at Cal State LA for my master's. I had the opportunity to start teaching a class called oral communication. It's basically public speaking. So that was the first class I taught. And I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I love the energy in the classroom. I love translating research into simple concepts and teaching them to younger people. I just find it very joyful. And since then, I knew that I was going to be helping people in some way, which is like teaching is my way of doing it.
I guess you were really passionate about conveying your knowledge to people, transferring them to people and to educate them, right?
Yeah, because I do think when people come into my class, they have never heard of, for example, like they've never heard of sexual communication before. They don't know what it stands for. They don't know what the semesters, like where the semester is going to take them. They don't know what we're going to cover in class. All they know is it's going to be great for personal development. And when they come into class and the first day they saw the syllabus, they're like, wow, this is so interesting. And I say, yeah, and you're going to learn a lot out of all the classes that you have to take. I mean, no bad feelings with calculus, but I'm not using it right now. So, when students are taking like calculus and chemistry, like if you were pursuing STEM, then you'll be using that. But sexual communication and relational communication, everyone should take this class because everyone will be in a relationship at some point in their lives. And they really need these tools to become successful at being in a relationship and at sexual communication.
Right. Since you happen to be a researcher of interpersonal and sexual relationships, do you believe that most of the divorce cases could be prevented with effective and improved relationship communication? Or what is your logic behind the same aspect?
Yeah, I think that half of the divorces are necessary, meaning I don't think it could have been prevented with better communication because too many people got married to the wrong person. And even if you both become better communicators, it doesn't mean that you can be together in the most fulfilling relationship possible, because that's not someone that's good for you. There's something to be said about compatibility and communication. If you have both, if you have compatibility and you're getting into arguments and both of your communication are not good, then yeah, that's the other 50% of the people where divorces could have been prevented if they were better at emotional intelligence and communication, right? Because sometimes like you are with someone that you love and that's good for you, that's compatible for you, but you both have poor communication skills. Then I truly believe that being better at communication can prevent breakups for those people. But then again, going back to my first example, like there are some people that are dating and got married to people that they're not compatible with. And I don't think that communication can cure that. Communication can help you split up in a more conscious way where you can remain friends and you can remain, in each other's lives. But I don't think if you are uncompatible or incompatible, I don't think that communication can prevent divorce. So you have to be compatible and good at communication. And that's like a recipe for a really good long-term relationship.
I guess your recipe would be adopted by many who believe in true love and finding their compatible partner. And also nowadays, often girls have a say that marriage doesn't scare them, but marrying the wrong person does scare them.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And I completely understand that. I've worked with a lot of clients that are divorced or are considering divorce. And it's very taxing. It's very emotionally taxing. And these are, they're strong, independent women. They're good at their jobs, but yet they can't seem to nurture a good, fulfilling relationship, and they feel bad. They feel like a failure. And I keep reminding them, like, you're not with the right person. And that's why you feel like a failure, because continuously arguing with your partner makes you feel like what's wrong with me, right? But it's just you're not with the right person. So yeah, marrying the wrong person cannot be healed with communication.
Right. Misinterpretation and communication can often lead to quarrels, arising from, say, differences in one's opinion. So do you think that it's wrong to take side of, say, your companion's opinion, which is comparatively contradicting to your ideology, for the sake of dodging a bullet?
I think that's a really interesting question. I think that first we have to evaluate how important that topic is to you. Is it a deep value that you have? Or is it just something that you kind of think, like, yeah, I agree with that. You've heard the term pick your battles, right? So yes. This is where you pick your battles. Like, is it something that's worth, having a debate and have a dialogue about, so that you can both understand each other's side and maybe agree to disagree because you don't want to compromise your value? Or is it something that you don't really have deep care about? You just thought you care, but you don't really have deep care about. Then I would say agreeing with your partner can help building this bonding and trust systems between the two people. So I do think the first step is to evaluate how much do you care about this particular topic. And then if yes, then you should have a dialogue to why you're different from your partner and kind of find a way to agree to disagree. But if it's not something that you deeply care about, I highly suggest kind of agreeing, try to understand your partner's point of view and agreeing to your partner, like you said, to dodge a bullet, because you don't care about it that much anyways. right? Like personally, I agree to my partner half the time for things that I thought I didn't like, but then I reevaluate and I'm like, I really don't care, right? I learned these values from school. And now that I'm, a grown adult with, the job that I'm passionate about, like with the life that I love, I don't have to follow the values that were taught to me by my school and my family. Like I'm an adult, I can choose what to believe in. And you know what? If it's opposing to my partner, I'm actually willing to hear what he has to say. And if that makes sense, then I'm willing to shift my perspective and perhaps my peripheral values towards his so that we are more in harmony, which I care about.
Right. Harmony is really important in a relationship. As they say, every person you meet has got a different story to say. So I think it's important to be patient enough to listen to what they have got to say and then decide on a conclusion. Yeah. Right. So trust, now talking about trust. Trust is a precious but fragile ingredient in a successful relationship. So what is your advice on building trust between life partners, and how can they be maintained for a longer period?
I want to first say trust comes in different shapes and forms. People think, oh, as long as you don't, cheat on your partner, as long as you don't have sex with other people, then that's trust. Like, no, that's just one arena. If you kind of let yourself go and you don't take care of your body and the way you look, the way you feel, and you abandon your partner, you don't show adoration and love and, showing your partner that you have a passion for them, that's also betrayal, betrayal of trust. So there's all kinds of trust that needs to be maintained, not just not having infidelity. Because when people think, oh, what is trust? Trust is if he doesn't cheat on me, right? Like that's just one aspect. What if he doesn't cheat on you, but he barely touches you, barely looks at you, ignores you, and just asks you to do house chores? Like that's also a betrayal of trust. Like that's not the person that I met. That's not the person I dated and fell in love with. So I think in order to maintain trust in a long-term relationship, you have to show up and put in the effort in all aspects of the relationship. A lot of women I talked to said, yeah, I don't even remember the last time my husband took me out on a date.
Oh,
right. Yeah, like they come home and they just kind of expect to like let's order food, or like expect you to cook, or they forgot to treat the relationship like a date. One of my favorite psychologists always say, like, treat your relationship like a date, like you're dating, because that's when we are at our best, right? That's when we put our best foot forward. I'm not saying you shouldn't be comfortable. Like, of course, this is a long-term relationship. Be realistic, right? Like, we're gonna feel comfortable. There will be days we are in our sweatpants and hair up and just hanging out, eating pizza, watching TV. Like, that's okay too. Being comfortable with your partner, that's okay too. But don't forget that we as humans, we want both. We want stability and novelty. But those conflict each other, right? Stability doesn't mean novelty. It's the opposite. So how do we have stability, which cultivates trust, but also have novelty, which helps maintain trust and connection, right? Which means, like, yes, you have to continuously communicate with your partner, show up as your best self, try to remind yourself that, when you are a fulfilled person and you're a confident person, then you are able to show up in a relationship at your best self. Remember to treat your partner the same way as you used to treat them when you were dating, right? If you've not gone out on a date for a year, like that's wrong. That lacks novelty, and that's one of the reasons why people are very dissatisfied in their relationships and marriages is there's no novelty. Like, I'm so bored, right? That is one of the reasons why people perhaps are thinking about infidelity and are thinking about other people, because it's fun and exciting. Why would you want to be in a relationship where you feel unappreciated and bored?
Right.
So yeah, building trust and maintaining trust is in all aspects of relationship. Make sure you show up as your best self. Comfort can be there, but at the same time, remember, all humans want both stability and novelty. So always seek out for ways to bring in novelty to your relationship so that that trust can be maintained and cherished in a long run.
That was a beautiful message. I think you're very true, because often people consider only as infidelity as, on the basis of what you should keep trust on, and not everybody considers the other aspects. So I guess that was a very beautiful message you conveyed to us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you think that including a third person to solve the dispute with your life partner is the right option? Because, many often don't like their private matters, or often consider their problems between their partners as private matters and don't want others to interfere. So do you think that it is completely incorrect or wrong to include another person if you're not able to handle the situation by yourself?
I think it is the most beneficial to involve a professional as a third party when there is a couple's dispute. Or not even a dispute. What if there's a disconnect, right? Or maybe you're consistently fighting and arguing about the same thing. I think it's most beneficial to involve a professional. For example, I do couples session, and these are like couples therapy, right? So the couple session, the two people come to the session, and I go through these series of questions for each person so that they can hear from each other from a different point of view, like what is the problem? And then I ask the professional intervene and say, hey, based on my analysis, like here's what she wants, here's what he wants, or here's what they want, and here's my advice, and here's the steps to do it in order to resolve this problem. There is a reason why people are continuously fighting and arguing about the same topic, and yet after conversations, they couldn't resolve that conflict. There is a reason why, because it's a deeper reason, and maybe because you're too close to one another, you can't talk it out. You can't seem to figure out what is the true reason to this fight. That's why I think involving a professional third party is smart, because this third party doesn't know you. It's not good to involve family, for example, or friends, because they know you and they have internal bias, right? They're rooting for someone. It's not a good idea to involve family. It's not a good idea to involve friends. I think it is the most healthy to involve a professional third party to help resolve your marriage issues or your relationship issues.
Right. And you're right, often people fear to include family members because they worry that they can worsen the situation further, or pick up rumors and spread that entire problem. So I agree with you.
Don't involve your family. It's very messy.
Yeah, it'll get messy. Yeah, true. It gets really messy. What is the role of sexual communication in a successful long-term relationship?
Yes. First off, sexual communication is necessary at all stages of dating and relationship. So even if you're starting to date, it's extremely important to talk about sex and to have a conversation in an open-minded way to figure out if you guys are sexually compatible or not. Because if you have different sexual attitudes and you believe sex functions differently, then you're not a good couple. You will have problems in the future. People ignore this stage because they're dating someone and it's so fun and exciting and they just want to get into a relationship, ignoring that they don't have the same sexual communication perspective and sexual attitudes. If you have different sexual attitudes, you will break up in the future. That's a fact. So sexual communication during the dating stage is necessary. And then in long-term relationships, in order to be in a most fulfilling romantic relationship with, the most happy, healthy sex life, you have to have a conversation about sex. So number one, talk about what are your likes and dislikes, right? What are some hard lines like, oh yeah, I would never want to do that. Then share about that. And then what are some of the things that turn you on? Share about that, right? Like what are some of the things that your partner does for you that's really hot, really attractive? Tell them that so that they can do more of that. And it's a good cycle. Good communication, do more of the things you love. Good communication, do more of the things you love. It's just going to help cultivate a very happy sex life together. So number one, definitely talk about your likes and dislikes together. Number two, don't forget to have a relationship and sex check-in. People in long-term relationships, believe it or not, there are people that I talk to that have been in a relationship for 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, never had a relationship check-in conversation. How do you know that both people are doing great, thriving, and happy in this relationship if you've never talked about it? So it's extremely important to talk about your sex life and your relationship consistently. So people ask me, well, how often? That depends. Maybe once every 4 months, right? Or once every half a year, or once a year. Maybe once a year you go on a little vacation together and have this conversation and enjoy your date, like enjoy the vacation together, right? But have this relationship check-in. How are we doing sexually? Are you happy with our sex life? Are you happy with your sex life? What else can I do for you? Right? If you think of it this way, that you care about your partner and you want the both of you, yourself and your partner, to be in the most fulfilling, happiest, healthiest relationship possible in the long run, you have to have this conversation. I would say at least once a year. You have to have this relationship and sex check-in. And when your partner gives you feedback, don't forget, don't be offended. This is for the greater good. It's for the better of the relationship. So yeah, if your partner gives you feedback, take it and see ways to improve. Ask them, what else can I do for you so that we have a happier sex life, right? And do those things together, then that's the best way to cultivate the most satisfying sex life in the long run, is sexual communication.
That was great, Dr. Tara. You really shared with us a lot of input on how to really maintain a healthy relationship and how to really communicate with your life partners so that you really have, as you had said earlier, to cultivate a satisfying sex relationship. Thank you. Now, talking about you, why did you choose this career path?
When I was in my, early 20s, I would say I was a very confused person in a relationship. I was very sexually shy. I had a lot of sexual anxiety. I used to think I'm not good at sex. My body wasn't sexy. I come off as someone that seemed confident, like in my early 20s, but in fact, I was very insecure. So when I entered graduate school, my logic was, okay, if I'm not good at something, I should probably study it so I can become better at it. And that was kind of where my passion started, in understanding like human psychology, human communication, interpersonal communication, and really ultimately, how can we have the most fulfilling love life and sex life? Because I know that that's going to determine the quality of my life. And so that was the start, was that I felt insecure. I felt like I wasn't good at being in a relationship or sexual communication. So I wanted to know more about it. And I became someone that studies it, an enthusiast, and research it and teach it.
Right, and it seems like you have succeeded and you have reached the heights.
I have a great sex life.
So, who had influenced you the most in your life?
I would say in ways, there's 3 people that have influenced me the most in life. And I would say when I was younger, it was my mother, because my mother is just a badass woman. She worked really hard. She was successful. She was just this like shiny, glowing role model for me. I'm like, I want to be just like her. So she was the person that showed me that you can be compassionate, kind, care for others, but at the same time have a really strong work ethic and succeed in your role and your business. So she was really my role model when I was younger. And then as I entered graduate school, my advisor, Dr. Melissa Brockman Post, was really the person that helped me realize my potential and helped me figure out my path into the PhD program. So she was the person that encouraged me to apply to a PhD program. So there would be no Dr. Tara without my advisor in the master's program. And then professionally right now, the person that inspires me, I don't know her in person. I would love for her and I to be friends, but I don't know her in person, but I admire her work. I read all her books. I watch all of her videos, is Esther Perel. Esther Perel is a psychotherapist and she has her own practice in New York. And she has written amazing books. And she has awesome videos that I always watch and I always show them in my classes. So she inspires me. Esther Perel inspires me. I hope that I can find my own path and becoming, a public figure, and I can help more people in the sexual communication arena. Similarly to Esther Perel, helping people about relationships and infidelity and divorces, because that's her topic. So yeah, that is my professional inspiration right now.
I think most of us could agree with you that for them, their mother must be their first influential, say, hero, including myself. So I can agree with you in that case. I haven't yet found another influential figure yet, but as of now, even my greatest influential figure is my mother.
Oh, that's sweet. That says a lot, right? Women that have great relationships with their mother, there's a lot of research that talks about how good that is.
Now, lastly, could you share some intimacy tips for couples to bring the spark back in relationship, which had been lost some time ago? When they started their relationship, they had it, but after a few years, they lost it. So could you share some tips to bring that spark back?
Yes, of course. I highly suggest people explore sexual mindfulness. And I highly suggest people do that through the lens of being playful. So first, how can you be more playful? People that are in long-term relationships that have lost spark, they are no longer playful with each other. They're kind of dormant, right? They don't have good sex, they don't have good chemistry, they don't have good connection, they kind of just live together. So Once you've lost that, it's really difficult to get it back. But the first easy thing that you can do is try to become more playful. Like how? Oh, maybe start complimenting your partner in the morning. Maybe your partner is making breakfast. Like walk around like, I think you have good ass. Like tell your partner that, or like, ooh, show me those daddy arms, right? Like, so insert playfulness into your relationship because this is going to help you get to a space where you can invite novelty into your life, and novelty will help spark that intimacy. So once you start to be more playful, give it time. It's not going to be, one day of being playful and then you immediately have intimacy. Like it's not like that. So give it time. Like try to be playful and change the way you communicate with each other a little bit. Be a little bit more playful and naughty during the day, and try that for a couple weeks. And then I strongly suggest you get into sexual mindfulness practices as something new to do together. For example, you can try sexual meditation. There are a lot of couples sexual meditation that you can do. In fact, if you subscribe to my email list on my website, you can get my free guided sexual meditation that's going to be like really fun, novel thing to do with your partner. And I think that that's a fun way to reintroduce intimacy and sexual energy into your relationship, is to do something like that together. Most people have never done couples sexual meditation, so it's kind of like something that they think it's funny and new and exciting. So definitely my suggestion is to try that. And then of course I think it's extremely important to consider sexual communication to invite back intimacy. So communicate about what are some things that you wish you see more in your partner, and then do that for each other. Then that shall open doors to invite more intimacy into your life. You have to communicate it. Your partner is not God. They don't know what you're thinking and what you need. Tell them what you need. Tell them what you need. Tell them what you desire, and find a way to compromise and invite intimacy back into each other's lives. So those are my suggestions.
Those are great suggestions, Dr. Tara. Thank you for sharing with us, and we would love to check out your channel and go ahead with that tip.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us again. It was great talking to you, and it was indeed an honor to have you here with us in Morning Listeners. We were able to get a great input from you about sexual communication and how to maintain a healthy relationship. We thank you for your time and patience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.